Hi, I'm Steve from Canadian Assistive Technologies, and today we're going to talk about accessible technologies for libraries specifically. Now, libraries see all kinds of people, from your average kid all the way up to your oldest senior. So you're dealing with a huge cross section of society and all kinds of different disabilities coming in and out your doors. So a lot of libraries in the past have gone whole hog and have bought just incredible amounts of technologies on grants to deal with different populations. But do you really need all of that technology, or do you need some more broadly focused technology? I'm going to show you a bunch of broadly focused technology that I think is appropriate for any library situation. And you can decide what you think is most appropriate for your library. So first off, let's talk about task lighting. Now, of course, there's lighting in libraries, but is there enough task lighting around to really help people out? Now, one of the things that they found in optometric circles is if you have appropriate task lighting, the average person reading can read about 2 lines higher on a standard reading chart if they're illuminated properly. So a really good idea is to have just a few task lights around for people who might be struggling with reading difficulties and just need that little bit of extra light to help really bring things home for them. Large print keyboard. Now, I don't know why every library doesn't have a large print keyboard at every workstation. There is no downside to a large print keyboard. The key spacing is exactly the same as you would get on any other keyboard. The only difference is it's much easier to see. And the majority of people these days are not touch typists. The majority of people are hunt and peck typers. So a large print keyboard just makes life easier for everybody. Another super simple adaptation that you can add to your computers in your library to make life simpler for people is a trackball. There's plenty of people who have a lot of difficulty with a standard computer mouse. Either they've got some sort of repetitive strain injury, or they can't actually grasp hold of the mouse, or they could have some sort of physical disability that prohibits them from using a mouse. Trackballs are ridiculously simple additions and super cheap. So this is a Kensington Expert Mouse trackball. You've got the trackball itself, and again, unlike a mouse, you don't have to grab it. You can roll it. So it doesn't matter if you're rolling it with your fingers. It doesn't matter if you're rolling it with your wrist. You can roll the trackball and manipulate the mouse. I've even seen people put these on the floor and use their feet to roll them. The buttons around it are programmable, so you can have, this is typically your single click button, but you could program one of these down here to do a double click if you had somebody who couldn't do the rapid double click. It also has a scroll wheel around the outside for scrolling up and down web pages. Super simple, super cheap, and really, really appropriate for a public setting. Talking book players. Now, a lot of libraries have these talking book players already. This is the Victor Stratus from Humanware. This is our single most popular talking book player for the library crowd. It's a very, very simple player, and it'll play from pretty much any media. So you can have your CD, you could load stuff through a SD card if you wanted to, off the USB stick if you wanted to. These work with materials from the CELA library. These work with the materials from the NNELS library. These are commonly loaned out to patrons, but they will work for anybody with a visual impairment, with dyslexia, with pretty much any kind of reading disability. So this is a fabulous thing to have on hand and to have as a loan device within a library. Let's talk about assisted hearing. Now, you'll run into people from time to time who are completely deaf, and something like this is not going to help them, but the deaf community has become pretty adept these days at using electronic devices to type messages back and forth when they need to be understood. However, you're going to run into a lot more people who are hard of hearing and who are not wearing hearing aids. Prime example is my 90-year-old mother, who is convinced that the entire world is just not speaking loudly enough. So this overcomes that barrier. So it's made up of two pieces. You've got a transmitter and you've got a receiver. So you give the receiver to the client with the headphones, and whatever's coming through the transmitter is going to be amplified into the headphones for that user. This is also really useful if you've got any kind of presentation taking place in your library, because you can clip this onto the presenter and have somebody sitting in the back row listening as if they were sitting in the front row. So let's talk about the software on your library computers. Now, first of all, very rarely are you going to run into somebody who's fully blind going into a library, but there is a free piece of software called NVDA, a screen reader for the blind, that is perfectly usable and which most people who are blind would be able to operate if it were on your computer. That one's free, not a problem. A larger group that you're going to run into, though, is going to be the low vision crowd. And that crowd, along with people with other print related disabilities, are going to require some software. Now, one of the best pieces of software I know of is a piece of software called ZoomText. ZoomText is designed for people who are visually impaired so that they can magnify text on the computer and also have it spoken to them. But what a lot of people don't know is that you can turn ZoomText magnification off and you can have just the speech operating, and it's driven around by the mouse. You can have it read everything on the computer screen to somebody who has some other print-related disability. So ZoomText is a terrific piece of software to have on a library computer system. So let's talk about reading machines, or closed-circuit televisions, which is what these actually are. They're basically made up of a camera and a monitor, and you're magnifying whatever you put on the table up onto the screen of the monitor. They allow you to change the color contrasts around so that somebody who has a visual impairment and needs specific colors to see better, they can change it to the colors that work for them. But in addition, these sorts of devices now are also capable of reading documents to you. You switch into a document reading mode, you press a button, it scans a document, and it'll just start reading it back to you. This makes it a lot more appropriate for people who are blind as well as for people who have other print-related disabilities. It's a really great general resource to have in a public library. For more information on any of the assistive technology in this video, or how we can help make your library services accessible, call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324 or email sales@canastech.com. For those in the Lower Mainland, come see our showroom and demo equipment at Unit 106, 828 West 8th Avenue in Vancouver.